Howdy and welcome back to the podcast. Today we have Mr. Nick Komodina, I believe. Is that how you say it? Sweet.
Correct.
Nick, I just found on Instagram while I was wanting to find some more guests and ended up messaging, and he messaged back. So he is also in the fitness space, and then I liked what is his content about entrepreneurship and fitness and stuff. But honestly, I really don't know who Nick is, and so I know he has a podcast, right? And so Headstrong, and so if you can just Nick introduce who are you, Nick?
Yeah, well, appreciate the introduction. Just a quick correction. I'm actually not in the fitness industry, really.
Okay.
I started in the fitness industry. I was in the fitness industry for about almost 10 years. I was a personal trainer. Then I owned my own gym for about 3.5 years. And then I closed that down and did online coaching for about the last 4.5, 5. And now I work dominantly with entrepreneurs. So my main audience now that I work with are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, and I help them understand their purpose, practice self-mastery, learn how to invest themselves into the proper things that can help them grow and scale their business and reach the people that they're supposed to reach.
How did that go from fitness into that?
Well, I started fitness coaching. Well, I started learning a lot about fitness out of spite because there was a personal trainer at my gym who was kind of a dick to me when I asked him for advice and made me try to charge me for a session. So I said, fuck you, I'll just learn everything myself, basically. And I learned a lot. And then I started helping people and I started getting paid for it. And I said, I'm pretty good at this. And so that segued and eventually, turned into this multi-million-dollar company. And I realized that I actually really realized this last year, that the way I always coached my fitness clients was more of a self-mastery, personal development, leadership development in their own lives and their own businesses outside of fitness. And as a byproduct of all of that coaching, they were winning bodybuilding shows. So I convinced myself that I was this fitness coach who also did that style of coaching, instead of looking at it from a different scope and asking myself, is this actually my main scope of genius? And I'm just using fitness coaching as a comfortable way to deliver it. And
how do you make a personal training business into a multi-million-dollar business?
Well, a lot of blood, sweat, tears, mistakes. It started just personal training people at a high school football track, And it's not the most professional thing when you get to a high school track and the gates closed and your client's got to jump a 15-foot fence for you to train them on some turf. But we got it done. I eventually worked under another man at his gym. It was probably the worst environment I've ever been in. The worst boss I've ever been under. Is extremely abusive mentally. And eventually he fired all of us. So I had no choice but to kind of go start my own gym. So we opened up a gym, started training our clients out of there. And then I went to the Arnold Expo, actually. And I met up with a couple influencers, and 2 of them asked me to coach them online for a show. I was like, well, I've never done that before. I did it. And one of them went on to win her pro card that season. The other one did really well. And just their progress and their results, people started listening. I started getting people's attention. And, eventually hired my first coach, and then the second coach, and then the third coach, and then the fourth coach, and then the fifth coach. And eventually you turn around and there's this company doing $3-4 million a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
It sounds, like a normal scale, but I mean, it's also like, I've been in fitness for a while now, and it seems so far-fetched for me to think about having a multi-million-dollar fitness company. I always look at gyms, and I always look at personal training as as kind of like a side gig, if you will. It's like, you can make some good money in it. Sure. I worked at a country club, and so I could see that in that space you can make money. And then also in the commercial realm, you can also make some good money. But I always in my mind thought that there was no money in fitness.
Yeah. Well, I think there's money anywhere you know how to look. I think there's money in doing something extraordinarily well. Not to say that people who aren't extraordinary can't make good money, but I think again, when you look at least this was the truth for me, was I believe that the reason our company was so successful was because of how much we put into the culture, how much we put into the personal development and the leadership development of every client that we had. We coached a lot of coaches. We had a lot of fitness coaches who coached underneath us because they wanted to learn how we ran the community. So it just started becoming this massive culture of people who wanted to come in because they knew how they were going to develop and how they could take that into their own lives. So now that's just what I do full time for people, is help them do that.
So an entrepreneur just comes to you and say, hey, I need help, and you are coaching them through their business development?
You could say that, yeah. I have a really hard time calling myself a business coach. I just for some reason that it just makes my balls itch thinking about something like that. It doesn't really sit well with me. I prefer the term mentor, just because I feel that gives me enough free range to do whatever I need to do with the person to help them. But there are people who come to me and they want to start a business, and they say, I'm sick of working the 9 to 5. I'm sick of the rat race. I'm sick of feeling miserable and having self-doubt, and I have all these limiting beliefs and whatever it may be. And sometimes, they'll start with me and we'll be 3 months in and we haven't done a single thing for business, because there's steps you need to get through in order to be able to fortify yourself to be able to uphold a business that you create. Otherwise, you're going to lose it. So if I scale somebody to $1 million business and we haven't scaled them to be $1 million leader, they're just going to self-sabotage it and they're going to lose it. And now they're going to be even more depressed and then even more stressed and even more unsure of themselves. And the probability of them bouncing back again after that is very low. So a lot of times the path that we need to take isn't necessarily the path that we want to take. So when somebody comes to me and says, hey, Nick, I want your help, I say, cool. Are you willing to, drop the ego and accept that there might be some different questions we need to be asking yourself first before we just start jumping straight in and making more money?
What are some character things? I always look at, I need to learn more about Excel, right? I need to get better at understanding how to read a P&L, but it sounds like it's a lot of the character things that are built, and I think through fitness a lot of times that you're looking at, and obviously a mentor, you look at all these things, but what are some character traits that you find a lot of people can come in with that maybe restrict them from their success?
I think it's actually a very vast list. I think it would be easier to almost give you the list of the character traits that people have that are successful, because I think you can pretty much dictate whether or not, or you can dictate how successful is going to be on, one, how much power they're willing to give outside world. Basically the story in which they give the power of, oh, well, this happened, so therefore I can't do that. Or I can't sign up right now because this is happening. Or I'm in debt right now. Once I get out of debt, then the amount of times I hear people say that to me, oh, well, right now I'm in so much debt. So once I get out of debt, then I'll probably be back. And I'm like, the fact that you're in debt's the exact reason we should be doing this right now. Because all that's going to happen is you're going to spend the next 2 years getting out of debt. It's probably not going to work. And then 2 years down the road, you're going to go, man, I'm even more in a hole than I was. Now I really need Nick's help. And then you're going to reach out. My prices are going to have tripled. And that's the circle. So I think that, one, you're going to need to see people who don't, or okay, the people who aren't successful are the ones who are always giving more power to their outside circumstances than themselves. There's always a reason. There's always an excuse. There's always a, you don't understand. My story's harder. And it's not. There's the fact of the fact is that facts are dictated by people. They're not dictated by the facts. So you can have two people with the same fact and have two completely different realities that stem from those. I
like that.
I was born in a trailer park. It was just me and my mom. It was $300 a month rent. We didn't have much. I grew up very frugal. There was nobody in my family who was business oriented, goal oriented, driven. I didn't have that influence. I had to develop it myself. But it can be very easy to say, well, I've never grown up that. I've been scarce my whole life. My whole family's poor. There's no way I can do this. I just didn't. I had a different reality than somebody else. There's kids I grew up with in my trailer park who died at 22. I think he died with a heroin overdose. Same trailer park. We live right next to each other. So how can that same reality or how can that same fact dictate two different realities? And it comes down to the choices that we make. A lot of people don't want to hear that because that can be really triggering to say, hey, your life is exactly where it is because of the choices you have or have not made.
And at what point did you? Is this a mentality that you had always carried with yourself? Like, is it from a kid? Were you always this guy?
You see, and I a lot of time I get on a lot of podcasts and people always ask, what was that moment where it all snapped, or when was that time when you realized that things were, different or whatever? And honestly, I don't really know. I've always been really outgoing. I've always been a very interesting balance, or not balance. I've always been an interesting combination of introvert and extrovert. I've always been a very interesting combination of stepping up and being the leader and stepping back and letting somebody else lead. So I've just been this very interesting model of human my whole life. And I've always been a challenger. That's the best way that I can really describe myself. I've always been the person who's looked at the thing that everybody is saying that you need to do in order to get by and said, why? And I had a really hard time in school. When I was in college, I got kicked out of a nutrition class because our nutrition teacher was just spewing bullshit, and I would raise my hand and say, well, what about this? No, what about this? And her response was only, I'm a registered dietitian. And I said, that's fantastic, but what about this? And so I never had a problem questioning the systems. And I think a lot of people use the systems as an excuse to remain unconscious and not think for themselves. And so I think that the thing that really helped me the most, just do whatever it is that I actually ended up doing, was giving myself permission to ask questions and not really caring if those questions offended other people, because I genuinely just wanted different answers.
And you were going to find the answer that you ultimately wanted from the person that was going to give you that answer that was ultimately going to help you in the direction you wanted?
Well, I really operate from the stance that we all know the answers to everything that we need. And that's why I trigger a lot of people when I start talking about my views on mental health and poverty or, anxiety and things like that, because there's a large part of me that really does die on the hill that a lot of that is a choice, asking the wrong questions, pretending you don't have the answers in a society that is developed to make us believe that we don't know the answers. And then what's everywhere you look? Don't ask questions, just listen. You go to school. This is the way you do things. Well, can I do it this way? No. Follow the curriculum. Right? You go to college. You're like, hey, what does this mean? No. Follow the curriculum. Follow the book. This is the book. This is the way we do it. So innovation dies very early on. Creativity is no longer encouraged. It's actually punished. So we lose our ability to ask questions for ourselves. When I was in elementary school, I was fucking obsessed with dinosaurs, man. Holy shit. I mean, I was in kindergarten. I could tell you every dinosaur, its scientific name, the era it was in, what it ate, how long it lived, how many millions of years ago. Like, it was insane.
That's cool.
But all I wanted to do was pursue that because it excited me. That was what gave me a creative outlet. So when I went to school, they wouldn't, it's like, hey, if you're done with your test, you just need to wait until everybody else is done. And I would say, I'm done. Why can't I read my dinosaur book? And so then it started being, this was where I really enjoyed how my mom raised me, because she would tell me, hey, once your homework's done, then you can go and play with your dinosaurs and stuff. So what did I do? I got really fucking good at the things I didn't want to do so that I could have more time doing the things that I wanted to do. So it was like I learned my homework really quick, and I would learn ways to shortcut to get it done faster. So when you do math a quick way, I started being able to do things in my head, and I'd get them done. And I'm sure you know this. We went to school around the same time. If you don't show all your work on the math test, it's wrong. So I would do these problems in my head and I would write them down. And my teacher started accusing me of cheating. Then they took me to a principal's office, called my mom in. They had a brand new test and they made me take it in front of everybody. And I got 100% on the whole thing. And I still got pushed back into a box of, no, you need to do the work and you need to do it this way. Otherwise it's wrong. So you know what happened? I started failing. I started becoming a troublemaker. I started becoming the class clown. I started getting in fights on the playground because the thing that was allowing me to express my authenticity and my creativity and my joy and my fun was stopped, and it was pushed into a box. And when you put a creative person in a box, they slowly die. And that's the world that we live in now. Nobody knows how to be creative and ask questions that are against what the standard norm is. And if you do, it feels very threatening to the average person nervous system. And that's why you get so many triggered people.
I'm told that I'm aggressive. It's aggressive energy, and I ask people questions that I just want the answer to. It is what it is, right? And it's unfortunately not ever taken very well nowadays. I guess even I guess when I was growing up, it's the same thing. A lot of similarities, which I think is funny, and just it is what it is. I remember growing up and I couldn't walk in the straight line. It was I needed to like get to the next. I wanted to get to the side of the line, and I wanted to skip my way to the thing, or like play lava with myself in my mind. It's like you can't touch the whatever color squares. You got to touch the white ones. And so many times in trouble for things that it was just like, we're all getting to the same place. What's the point, right? Well, why does it have to be in this one line?
Well, you want to go a step further and really trigger people, which I'm the best at, is you look at ADHD. You look at, and majority of ADHD is diagnosed in boys, right? You have these young boys full of energy, full of warrior spirit, who need to get out and run and wrestle and let out that just aggression of being a male. And what are they told? It's like, no contact, right? Don't do this. Don't be competitive. Don't be mean. Sit in the classroom for 8 hours a day. And if a child starts acting in any way that is somewhat inconvenient for the teacher, they put them on meds, because now we have a diagnosis for inconveniencing a teacher to make things more simplified. Well, I'll tell you what, you take any child with ADHD, any person with ADHD, because I self-diagnosed myself with ADHD because my brain goes a million miles a minute. But I channel it into things that I enjoy. And guess what? Everything I enjoy, the second I touch it, I can turn it to gold because I get it done. I get it done. So you tell me the boy who can't concentrate to save his life, put that little boy in front of a video game he loves and tell me how he doesn't become the best at that video game in 2 months. Because he's engaged. It excites him. It gives him creativity. It allows him to do something in a way that he enjoys, right? And now the video game, unfortunately, becomes a rebellion. It becomes a numbing mechanism to him being crushed in his creativity everywhere else. And you wonder why kids get addicted to video games. Well, it's an escape from the world in which they are being told that the way that they want to act is not okay. And now what are we bringing into this next generation? A lot of people who are being, or every child is being basically told, hey, the way that you are authentically needs to be changed. You need to stop being who you are. You need to stop acting the way that you want to act and how you truly act. And you need to fit in this box. Otherwise, there's something wrong with you. And now we have anxiety and depression and confusion and lack of fulfillment and lack of direction in everybody's life. Everybody feels unfulfilled. Everybody is filled with fear. And what stems from fear? Usually anxiety. What stems from anxiety? Not knowing what to do with your life. What happens when you don't know what to do with your life? Well, you become depressed. And what happens in a society where we are preconditioned to medicate everything? Well, you're depressed, hop on depression meds. And now everybody's enabling the person going, wow, I'm so sorry that you're depressed. Here, make sure you take your meds. I understand you're depressed. You can't go out and change your life. Of course you can. Of course you can. But then you'll get people who say, well, you've obviously never had depression if you think that you can change it. Of course you can. We can change anything. But people don't ask themselves the right questions. It takes one question to unravel a belief system, right? What if I could get out of bed today? Like just what if I could? What if I did put on my shoes today and I filmed some content and posted about my business? Like what if I just did? What would that look like? What would that feel like? But nobody wants to do that. Because the questions always come down to, why do I feel this way? Why can't I overcome this? Why do I feel so unsure of myself? Why can't I catch a break? Two facts, two completely different realities. It's all based off the question that we want to ask, in my opinion.
I think some of those questions that get asked, like why, what happened, what happened if I posted a video today? I think if you have someone who has anxiety and depression, and they're fearful of what the other person's going to think, right? They're not excited about posting the video, or they may be excited about posting the video, but they're limited by their own belief system that everybody else isn't going to like it or isn't going to care, or that they're going to be bad at it at the very beginning. But I think with all things, we're usually bad when we first start, and you get better as you progressively continue to practice that thing, right? There are a few people who are gifted that they can actually engage in something and then they're good at it immediately. I think that those people struggle as well with knowing where to go. I think that's me. I think there's I can do anything. Like the options are endless, which is a beautiful thing to be able to have. But at the same time, it's like, well, which one do I do? I want to do all of them.
Yeah, that definitely resonates for me. I mean, I've had so many different businesses and things that I've created and avenues that I've done in my entire life. It's very hard for me to focus on one thing. So I said, okay, how do I get really good at building things up and making them self-sustaining so that I can go just build another thing? And instead of, this is again, most people are unconscious and they want to listen to the first person that they hear who's successful and say, okay, that must be the only way that I can operate. And you hear, and one of the more common things is, hey, you need to find one thing you're good at and you need to stick to it if you want to be successful. I disagree. I think that if you have a hard time being successful at any one thing, then yes, you should stick to the one thing until you learn the mental approach, the grind, the work ethic, the tenacity, the perspective needed to make something successful. But if I'm in the middle of a successful company and I choose to walk away from it to start something new, I at least know that I made the decision to walk away from that company out of a good heart space instead of walking away because it was hard. And I think that's where most people fuck up. The second that the company gets hard, they go, well, this isn't for me. If it was for me, it would be easy. Where does that stem from? Oh, everybody gets a participation trophy. Hey, it's okay that you tried. It just wasn't your best. There's no competitive edge anymore. So you take one person who has a slight competitive edge and has one competitive argument around a collective belief system of self-pity, and everybody panics. Everybody unravels. Everybody gets triggered into this dysfunction of trying to make that person look like an awful person. And truly, Ben, I can't tell you how many times I've been painted as this dangerous, awful, whatever words want to be used for me, by asking questions around what people agree upon as a social norm diagnosis for themselves in order to prevent themselves from being successful and actually having a life where they wake up and enjoy. My role in this world is to trigger people into an evolution and bring back the power to them. And that's not going to be for everybody.
What kind of questions are people so offended by?
Well, I get a lot of people very offended again when I talk about mental health. And just for your viewers, I've battled depression, I've battled suicide, I've had the gun to my head loaded, ready to pull the trigger. I battle anxiety. I get anxiety all the time. I always tell people, well, what happens if you don't identify with anxiety? What happens if instead of saying I struggle with anxiety all the time, you see anxiety for what it actually is, which is an emotion. It's an emotion. It only stays for as long as you choose to cling to it. You don't hear people say, I struggle with happiness. I struggle with anger. I struggle with joy. I struggle with excitement. I have chronic excitement. Yet when it comes to the other spectrum, right? Because we have a spectrum of emotions that we feel. We have all the ones on the left side that we deem as good, and we have all the ones on the right side that we deem as bad. And the two most common ones on the right side are depression and anxiety. And that's why I talk about them. And I'm not here to invalidate anybody who is anxious, because I've been fully overcome by anxiety. It's debilitating. I've been fully overcome by depression. It almost killed me. For some reason, and this isn't for everybody, because I do believe that there are some cases where medication might be necessary in order to help them get to a place where they no longer need it so they don't self-harm. But there's this whole, first it was this whole argument of, well, it's a chemical imbalance in the brain, right? I can't help it. My brain chemistry's off. Disproven. One question unravels that entire stance in the first place, in my opinion. Okay, let's just go, and I don't need any study to back this up. It's a pure question. So let me ask you this. If your brain chemistry is off, and now you are depressed, and that's the only reason, how did your brain chemistry get off in the first place? Were you born depressed? And that's just what your brain chemistry's been your whole life? No. Okay. So you're telling me that your brain chemistry changed without a medication. So why are you telling me that you need a medication to change it back? Because wouldn't it be the same neural pathway that's being traveled? That's a hard question for people because it automatically puts all the power back to them and they don't know what to do when the power is with them, because then that would mean they actually have the power to change. And the story that they've been identifying with for so long no longer exists, which again is very threatening to the average person's nervous system.
I like this a lot. I think that this is definitely not, there's not a lot of people that think like this. I think that's not my frustration, I guess. Sometimes I made a decision that I was going to be good at something. I wanted to be really good at powerlifting, right? That was the thing that I wanted to do. And I, within a year, won state, and then within 2 years was at competing for Team USA, and then I ended up competing a couple times. And it was just a decision, and coming out of that, I realized, like, man, absolutely, you can learn absolutely any skill.
Yeah.
And then I think a lot of things, if you start in the gym, I think they translate over into your regular life. If I am going to train hard, keep things clean, do all the little things right in the gym, then that kind of shows that's kind of the person, that's who they are. And it's going to translate out. And then if you diligently just work good, honestly, and hard, then you're going to get there, right? It doesn't matter the obstacle. You're going to figure it out. It's as asking, how can I get there? And then just, okay, well, that's what I got to do next. That's what I got to do.
Right. I do think, and this is where I believe most people get overwhelmed. There are a lot of paradoxes in the human psyche. There are a lot of different mental, psychological paradoxes that we all go through. Every way that you want to believe something has an opposing duality to it that can convince you otherwise. So I can challenge what you just said right now. Hey, I could figure anything out. My question is just, how do I overcome this? Well, then the simple question to that is, what if that thing is just genuinely not meant for you in the first place? And then we get stuck in this question of, well, I know I can do anything. So if I put my mind to it, and if I just keep asking myself this question, eventually I do it. And this is where we have the Impact Legacy Mastermind, where we kind of help entrepreneurs with everything that I've been telling you about. We're not business coaches. I don't teach a system because I believe people use a system as a way to remain unconscious and not do any work for themselves. So I get a lot of people and a lot of entrepreneurs who come from these other business coaches that they're paying $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to be in their program, and they're getting taught a plug and play system. And they're being taught, well, if the system's not working for you, you just need to do the system more. So if you're doing it 100 times and it's not working, then you need to do it 200 times. If it doesn't work 200 times, you need to do it 400 times. So then what do we start reinforcing in these entrepreneurs? Shit, there must be something wrong with me. I must not be cut out for this. I'm not good enough. I'm not worth it. I'm not worthy is one of the number one fears in human collective. I am not worthy enough. Instead of asking the simple question, what if this system just doesn't work for my business? Well, because the business coaches have their 5 to 10 star athletes or their star students that they say, look, these people are doing 500K months, $1 million a month. So it's just all marketing. I mean, that's really what it is, and I get it, but most people don't, because it is the easiest failsafe for us to fall back to that, well, there must be something wrong with me. Why is that? Because if there's something wrong with me, now I have an excuse, I have a story, and I have a scapegoat for me to not have to push forward in this thing that is making me uncomfortable, in this thing that is proving hard, in this thing that is not giving me an instant gratification of success. So if I can tell myself, shit, I can't do that. It's just, there's something wrong with me. It gives me a justification to give up. I just did a call in our mastermind about being overwhelmed, because a lot of people feel overwhelmed, and being overwhelmed is where most people give up. The second that we push forward into a new business, a new relationship, a new fitness routine, a new whatever you want to put on this, there is a lot of overwhelm, and we use overwhelm as an excuse to give up. We start looking at things super grand picture. We stop looking at the action step needed right in front of us. And we say, this is too much information, or this is too much. I'm overwhelmed. I can't do this. And now if I've identified with being overwhelmed, I now have a subconscious justification to not push forward. But if you don't push past that first phase of overwhelm, you never get to experience the other side of the coin. And the other side of that overwhelmed coin is feeling overwhelmed with abundance, feeling overwhelmed with gratitude, with joy, with fulfillment, with success, with love. And we never get to experience those overwhelms until we push past the shitty overwhelms. But that's where everybody gives up.
And it's a lot easier to give up at that point and not know that there's an end to it. I think that not every venture will be successful. And so a lot of people will I've had businesses that weren't successful or didn't take off nearly as much as I wanted. And so I was like, okay, well, this one's done. But somebody is gonna get to that point where they're like, oh, well, then I can't do business.
Right. And I'm personally identified. That's what it comes down to. I'm personally identifying myself with whether this business is succeed or fails.
Correct. It could just be that.
Go ahead.
It could just be that the market sucks. It could just be that the place that you are, the way you're selling it sucks. It could be that it's just, again, not for you. It's not your skill set. And it's just, okay, well, if this isn't for me, where can I go next?
Well, I think a lot of times people just have a hard time accepting that they suck at something. It's okay to suck at something. It doesn't mean that you suck. It just means that you suck at that skill. And the longer that somebody tries to do a skill that they suck at and just genuinely are going to suck at forever, but they don't accept the fact that they suck, they're never going to get better, because they're just going to say, why is nobody buying from me? Why does nobody pay attention to me? Why don't I have more followers on Instagram? Why aren't I getting any clients? Why are my clients not staying? Why is my product not selling? Well, have you ever asked yourself the question of, what about my product sucks? What about my offer sucks? What about my service sucks? What about the way that I'm doing business sucks? And how do I fix it? One fact, two different realities. People aren't buying from me. Why won't people buy from me? What do I have to fix about my product so that people do? People ask the wrong questions, and they keep getting the reality that they don't want to live in.
In your own, in the personal training and gym company, what were some things that sucked? What did you know that you weren't good at, and then now you can say, like, actually, I'm pretty damn good at that now?
Honestly, man, I've really been blessed that pretty much, minus a handful of things, majority of actual businesses I've been all in on have succeeded. What I did suck on back then was my own discernment, my own belief in myself, and being grounded when faced with adversity or faced with discomfort or people agreeing with me. I was extremely reactionary, and it really blinded me to a lot of ways that I could have made that gym significantly more successful. And honestly, it could have still been running to this day and producing me cash flow, but I wasn't really in that headspace then. And I just that whole thing taught me a lot. That was my first time ever owning a business completely for myself. Was I had to build a gym in 20 days off of a $20,000 investment. And the guy was like, "Can you do it?" And in my head, I'm like, "Absolutely not." But I said, "Sure, fuck yeah, I'll do it." It was the only chance I had to get money,
Yeah.
And so I said, "Do I got to make this thing work at 20 grand?" Sure. I had a partner in the time, but he didn't really do much. But I would order the equipment, drop it off curbside, no professional equipment or no professional installation, no warranty. So I'm lugging in all of these pieces from the massive squat racks, and I'm finding a way to drill them. And, I'm building everything in this gym to save as much money as I can. And we got it done. So I learned to be very, very fucking resourceful. So I don't really think that I necessarily sucked at anything. It actually transformed me into being as resourceful as I could be with anything that was in front of me. And that has transitioned into everything that I have done ever since.
That's a huge note, and something that I'm going to take for myself a little bit. So how can I be more resourceful because I think there's a lot right here that I have, right? The computer alone is a resource.
You have a laptop, you can be a millionaire.
Yeah. And so what am I doing, right? How can I use this resource, and where do I look? Where do I go? It's like, well, there's plenty of resources. There's Reddit, there's Google, right? Just look something up.
Ask the right question, you'll get the right answer. How can I make the amount of people, and this is why, my service offered to whoever wants it now has transformed a lot over the time, because I just continue to keep getting met with people's excuses to not change their lives. So I keep creating new things to remove those excuses. And that's how my new business structure is built. So people can work with me one-on-one, which is my highest ticket. If they can't afford to work with me one-on-one, they can drop down to the mastermind, which will help them scale, grow their business, and be able to afford working with me one-on-one. And if they can't even afford that, well, I have a solar company that I can give you a job in. You can be a rep and you can go door-to-door knock, or you can sell online and you can make, $6,000 to $11,000, $15,000 per deal you close in commission. So what are your excuses? I'm providing you the job, I'm providing you the guidance, and I'm providing you the investment opportunities to make anything you want to make for yourself. What's the next excuse? You don't have healthcare? Do I have to start a healthcare company? Because I'll do it. Because eventually you'll remove so many excuses that people will have no choice but to say yes. That's my goal.
Why was your desire to teach people this?
Because I think a lot of people, I know a lot of people are stuck in the rat race. And the rat race has been designed to keep everybody running as fast as they can to barely survive. And when you get people stuck on that wheel, they don't have the time, the resources, or the ability to think outside the box for themselves and change their lives. That's why the system is that way. Then there's the opposite side, where people think that getting rich is what's going to save their lives. So I teach people that it's not about being rich, it's about being wealthy and all the energetics that come around with that. I've been rich. I've had the supercars. I've had the big house. I've had buying the bottles. I've had blowing money on anything that I needed. I've had it all. And I almost killed myself still, because I was rich monetarily, but I was poor everywhere else, and I wasn't wealthy. People don't understand wealth. What do you hear about most people when they're really wealthy? Such a narcissist. Oh, they make people have this presumption that if somebody's extremely wealthy, that there must be corruption behind it, because that's the lens in which they see the world. Now, here comes a paradox. If people want to talk about me being dangerous and a narcissist and say, well, he only cares about money, or whatever anybody paints on anybody, paradoxically, your subconscious is now saying, well, I don't want to be a narcissist. I don't want to be viewed at this way. So I'm going to make sure that I keep myself as far away from wealth as possible. And then that person never breaks out of poverty, because to them, being wealthy is actually to be looked at negatively. And so that which you dishonor is repelled from you. That which you honor flows through you. So if you can actually look at people who are wealthy, who are living the life that you want to live, and you can say, wow, that is so fucking amazing for you. Like, you are so inspirational. I'm so happy for you. Can you be 5 days late on your rent and hear your friend talk about how they just closed a $25,000 deal, and can you rejoice for them? If you can't, then you know everything that you need to know about your current level of consciousness and what you need to work on in order to have wealth enter your life.
I can, if the shoe fits, wear it, right? And I think there's times where I can see other people. I think on Instagram is where I see it. It's like that weird number of followers. It's like if a close friend of mine that I feel isn't as knowledgeable in this area as I am, but then they're gaining this odd amount of followers. I'm like, well, why? What's going on? And it's like, well, because the answer was, I enjoy it. Right? We talked about it, and it's like, I'm kind of like upset that you're making this growth here. Like, it's awesome for you, but why? It would, I think it's one thing if like you're educated, you're really putting out some good content here, but you're not. And so it's frustrating to see someone who maybe isn't putting out a high standard of content, but still making progress. And I think that's an unfortunate reality for life. I can see people that build shitty houses, but still can sell 1,000 of them a year, right? It's knowing that not everyone has that same standard of success and acceptance, but it's just realizing that's where they're at, right? That's what they're selling, and I'm not selling that. That's good for them.
I think what you just kind of stumbled upon is that volume is king. That's what it comes down to. Volume is king. I work with this entrepreneurs all the time who are having a hard time branding themselves, marketing themselves, getting people to buy from them. And look at their content, and they're posting once every couple of days, once every 5 days. It's really quality content, super high quality. And I'm going, why don't you post every day? And they go, oh, it takes me a long time to edit and make it look good and this and that. I'm like, well, people don't see you. People don't see you. I use McDonald's as an example all the time. McDonald's is the #1 restaurant on the planet. Where do you see McDonald's advertisements? Fucking everywhere. They're on commercials, they're on the radio, they're on park benches, they're on buses, they're on billboards, they're in magazines. And they're tiny. You could make a graphic just as good as that on fucking Canva nowadays. They go everywhere always because they know people forget. They know people need to be reminded of what they have. It's like everybody knows a fucking McGriddle. Everybody knows what the McGriddle is. But I'll ask you this. Were you thinking about the McGriddle at all today until I just said it? Probably not. But you know it. You forgot about it, though. So now you understand why McDonald's is such a high marketer. They're the #1 restaurant on the planet. They don't need to do that, but people forget.
It's all about just volume. And
it's volume.
I think what stops me is well, I don't want this level of volume to end up decreasing a certain level of quality that I'm content with. And that just ultimately means I need to take more time. I need to get better faster at putting out content.
Well, I think that a lot of people miss the forest shooting for the trees here, where they think every content needs to be this slam dunk thing to help people and get them this crazy result. And I do agree that your content, like if I'm the person who is helping entrepreneurs gain better perspective, ask themselves these questions and de-ravel their reality, you should be able to go to my content, and 80% of my content should be doing something close to that. It should be, you should watch one of my reels and be able to go, I never really thought about it that way. Or, oh, that's a really interesting perspective. If my content's not doing that at least 80% of the time, then I'm not the go-to person for the thing that I'm selling, and I'll always have a hard time converting. Now, what are the other 20%? Well, this is where people actually connect with you. This is where you become human. This is where you have certain hobbies. This is where you start expanding your personal identity. Gary Vee is a great example of this. You know Gary Vee? Okay.
Yes.
Do you know who Gary Vee's favorite football team is?
No idea.
It's the Jets. If he posts about the Jets all the fucking time. Like, he wants to buy the team, he wants to buy the stadium, all of this. Why is he so crazy about the Jets? Well, he posted about the Jets forever, and guess what? It humanized him. So nobody could relate with Gary Vee, the owner of this multi-million dollar advertising company who was an absolute killer on social media marketing. People can't relate to that. What can people relate with? Oh, NFL, football. Wow. I'm comfortable telling him that I like the Jets or I don't like the Jets. I'm comfortable connecting with him. I feel more connected to him because he's talking about things that I can relate to. This is where different levels of consciousness come into play. This is why McDonald's will do a commercial, a park bench, a picture, just a picture of the sandwich, a write-up, everything, because people's levels of consciousness are different, which means we intake information differently. So if I'm posting something that's relatable, very relatable, if I'm posting that I absolutely love Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and then I get 50 people who respond to my DM and go, dude, Cinnamon Toast Crunch is the best cereal there is. Guess what I have an opportunity to do now? Connect with my audience, connect with my people, build trust, and establish rapport. So I can message them back. It's the GOAT. I've been eating it since I was a kid. More than likely, those conversations turn into, hey man, I've been thinking about reaching out to you to work with you or get into your mastermind for a while. I just haven't pulled the trigger. Oh, no way. That's awesome. Why don't we hop on a phone call and see if we can help you out? And the caveat there was that the lower level consciousness, the Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and I actually did Cinnamon Toast Crunch. That's why I use it. I did that. The lowering down of the gate of Cinnamon Toast Crunch allows more people to walk onto the elevator, and then through conversation, I can elevate them to where I need them to be to convert them and help them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
So when it comes to the volume game, people say, I don't know what to post. It's like, post once a day. You don't know what to do? What's something that you thought of today? What's something that you did, right? I hopped on a podcast today and I talked about Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I can go talk about that on my story right now. I posted a reel about psychedelic mushrooms like 4 or 5 days ago. And now my entire Instagram is completely shadow banned. I mean, it's like insane. I usually average about like 2,000, 3,000 likes per post. My last 4 posts have gotten 35 likes. It's like crazy, but to me, it's funny. Right? I know it corrects itself. Give it 14 days or so, and then you're back. And so I'm screenshotting my analytics and I'm posting them, and I'm going, ha ha ha. I guess I better make the algorithm work for me. Hashtag Biden's the best. Like just messing around, being funny. And this morning I had like 120 DMs. People just responding to my stories, laughing, engaging. Ha ha, this is so funny. That's not necessarily something that's going to help me serve them, but it is something that can help me connect with them from a humor level, which will eventually allow me to serve them better.
Is the social media a big part of your marketing for the masterclass?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the only marketing that we do. It's just referrals from the members who are in there. I mean, we have a bunch of different teachers in there. We do about 8 to 10 calls a month in there that are deep dive masterclasses for everybody. I only host 2 a month, and I'm very notorious for being very aggressive with my calls. So I give people time in between them. But when I go on the calls, I just ask my members, hey, if you guys are on this call at any point in time, if there's something I say, there's a slide that you read that gives you a light bulb and you find this valuable, if you could just take a picture, post it on your story, tag myself in the mastermind, I would be super grateful. I'm serving you. If you want to serve me, that's so amazing. And that's how we grow. I grow by serving my people. And I say, hey, if I've served you well enough, and you think that somebody else can be served by what I'm doing, then just post about it. If you don't feel that, no hard feelings. Maybe the call didn't hit for you. Don't post about it. And from that alone, we have grown the mastermind tremendously.
And how does somebody start a mastermind? What is a mastermind? What can a mastermind be, and what does that look like?
Well, I think that masterminds have a lot of, usually a mastermind is a super high ticket thing. it's a 12-week mastermind, whatever it is. It's basically a group container. It's a monthly contribution to stay in the container and coach. So what we do is kind of everything we've talked about here. We help entrepreneurs get crystal clear on their vision. If you're not a business owner, that's fine. We have plenty of people in there who are employees, not entrepreneurs, and they just really are interested in the self-mastery side of things. So the way that our mastermind is set up is I teach on what I teach on. We have a coach, Brittany, and she has a very impressive psych background. She teaches once a month on subconscious mastery. Hey, here's how your subconscious actually works. Here's how you can rewire it. Here's why you think you're self-sabotaging, but you're actually doing exactly what you want. She's freaking crazy. We have Brady, who comes in and leads everybody through a somatic breathwork session every month and I'm not sure if you've ever done somatic breathwork. It's incredible. And basically it allows stored trauma and stress in the body to release. And this can release in, crying, screaming, punching a pillow, whatever, but breathing in a specific way actually opens up those blocks in the body. And being an entrepreneur is extremely hard nowadays. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of stimulus. Our nervous systems are not made to intake all the information that we have to intake every day. So we store a lot of stress. So allowing these entrepreneurs to clear that every month and make space, it's just profound what they can do after that. We do calls on business scaling. We do calls on crypto. We do calls on how to invest and how to read charts. We do calls on how to market yourself, how to brand, how to serve your clients better. And it's just an all-encompassing thing was kind of my goal. How can somebody come in to be able to master health, wealth, relationships, and be the person who holds the key on their wealth? Because that's another thing that most people are missing in their lives. They're not the ones who hold the key for their income streams, for their bank accounts, for everything. And so they're a victim to somebody outside of them. We teach how to master yourself and master your life. That's what ours look like.
Not having the key is probably one of the most sad feelings that there is. And mm-hmm. I'm in that position right now where I took a new job as a construction manager. My background is not in construction management. It's in personal training and the exercise world. And feeling like I'm reliant on every single one of my trades to do their job and do it well and to show up on time. I'm reliant on the owner to pay me at the end of the month, right? Or whatever, every 2 weeks, whatever it may be. There's no how can I make sure that this thing goes well? And then there's an immediate feedback where I think in any real business that you can see, hey, if I'm doing this and this is working, then we're making progress. If I'm not doing this, or if I'm doing this and we're not making progress, then we know, right? It's an easy telltale where what to push you and where to go.
Yeah. Well, and just to clarify for your listeners, I'm not sitting here saying every single person's supposed to be an entrepreneur. That would be idiocy to say that, because how do people build a business in the first place? Well, we need employees. We need people inside of the business that have the same vision. Some people just don't want to be entrepreneurs, and that's okay. But I think this society that we're in right now, and just with Instagram and hustle culture, there's almost this gaslight effect happening to where if you're not a business owner, if you're not an entrepreneur, then you're throwing your life away. And I think that's another thing that makes a lot of people super stressed out. And, people will start reaching for massive twigs of, well, I'm barely making any money, but I need to put all this money that I do have into a real estate investment so I can start making passive income. And you sit there and you ask a question, right? If you're barely making any money, why are you going to take all the money that you're barely making and put it into a very small investment that's going to bring you a small cash flow every month? Well, because I want to start building my portfolio. Build yourself first. Instead of taking that money and putting it into real estate, take that money and put it into developing a skill. Develop a skill for yourself. Join a mastermind. Hire a mentor. Get some more skill sets. Expand your ability to serve people, and then go sell that and make more money. Before you go into an investment for passive income, get a second job. Most people are trying to work less at the exact time that they're supposed to be working more, or that they should be working more.
There's a lot of good in here, and I think finding those skills and knowing which skills to focus on can be difficult. But I mean, ultimately, just find a space that you want to grow in, and invest in that thing, right? It shouldn't
Yeah,
be.
the thing that we teach, I've worked with a lot of people. You know, I've worked with well over 1,000 people by now, and I've seen I've kind of broken it down into 6 stages. I call it the straight A leadership. Basically, it's the 6 stages that everybody goes through and has to continue to go through, and they're straight A's because I made them all start with A's, and it's awareness, acceptance, awakening, application, ascension, abundance. And when we go through those things, well, what's everybody teaching? What's everybody striving for? They want an abundant lifestyle. They want to break into this world where everything is happening for them and they don't have to work and they don't have to this. And it's just, you know, you'll see in the spiritual community, sit down and meditate and the universe will drop it in your lap like a fairy. And it's just these, whatever. But we need to first have awareness of where we are in every sense. People just want to know where they are from the victim sense. Well, let's look at where you are. Let's bring awareness to your actions, your lack of actions, your thought patterns, the belief systems, the story you're telling yourself, your laziness, your self-deprecation, your willingness to go tell everybody in your life how miserable it is so that you get a pity party every time. Let's bring awareness to all of that first, and let's really map it out. That's hard to do. Well, now let's work on accepting all of those things. Let's stop identifying with it. Let's stop being frustrated. Let's stop beating ourselves up about it. Let's accept the information and the situation for what it is. And when you start to accept these parts, when you start to become aware of, maybe I operate this way because of that one thing that happened when I was 8. Maybe I have a hard time with women, or I'm overly aggressive with women because my mom abused me as a kid and I'm still taking that out on the female archetype in front of me. Ooh. I guess those are hard conversations to have with yourself. But when you have that awareness and you accept it, something starts to happen. You start to awaken. You start to wake back up. You stop becoming unconscious. Once you have conscious awareness of the way that you're fixing or the way that you're operating, you become aware. And when you become aware, that's when I call it the awakening, because you start seeing the world differently. It's like you woke up from a nap. And now you start seeing, man, everything that I've been through in my life, all the shit that I've done, all the hardships, all the trauma that I've overcome, it's actually gifted me with a very particular set of skills to help a very particular person, the person that I used to be. And now I can resonate with that type of person. I've walked the walk. Who better, who more qualified? And I'm not talking a qualification from a freaking Rockefeller school system. I'm talking a qualification of real life experience and perspective and understanding, because everybody wants to feel seen, heard, and understood. That's it. Who better to do that than the person who just went through everything this person's going through? Now you've awakened and you start seeing what you fucking hate in this world, what you want to change, what you want to fix, how you want to serve. And then what starts to happen? Now I got to learn how to apply this. And that's where the application stage comes into play. How do we take what you're seeing? How do we take what you're feeling? How do we take what you want to fix? And how do we start allowing you and giving you tools to apply that in your life? Maybe that does look like starting a business. Maybe that looks like just developing a skill to help people inside of your current business. And then when you start applying that, well, the ascension happens very fast, which means you start moving up the ladder and you realize how good you get at that thing very quickly. You feel very comfortable. You feel at home and it starts to light you up. That's why I call it ascension. And once we get past that stage, well, that's when that's when you've developed a name for yourself. That's where business is flowing in. That's where you're helping people. And that's where your life really does become this amazing portal of abundance. And then we got to start the process all over again. And that's
Why?
just this. Well, because your ego is a very fecal thing. Your ego evolves as you evolve. So once we hit that first level of abundance, this is where most people cool off. This is where most people stop and they go, well, I made it now. I don't need to do this anymore. And then the second phases of these come from the awareness of, holy crap, I've only been doing this as a way to get myself out of poverty, or I've only been doing this as a way to save myself from scarcity so that I can have abundance. And then you realize, oh my God, I've been doing this whole thing operating out of lack. I built everything I wanted to build for myself because I felt like I was lacking in other departments. And now there's a brand new awakening of, holy crap, this is just what I'm meant to do on this world regardless. This is just why I'm here. And then this new awakening becomes, well, this is just my process. And it stops being attached to an outcome. And this is where you really, this second awakening is so fucking powerful, Ben. And I see this in so many people. And this is where you get rock hard fortitude in yourself. And I you know, this takes a long time. I mean, I fully believe I'm right around my second real awakening application stage. And I'm starting to see the ascension really start to compound here. But it gets to this point where you just ground yourself in the process. You lose 70% of your business tomorrow. All right. You wake up and do the same thing. I lose every client. Well, not every client. I lose all of my clients but one, and I'm homeless, can't pay my bills. Well, and that's on a Sunday. Well, shit, I got to get to Starbucks at 8 a.m. because they got Wi-Fi and I got a call to get on. You stop worrying about the outside circumstances because you know that you were meant to do one specific thing. This is your purpose. This is how you serve. This is who you serve. And it doesn't matter if you get $1 million check in the mail. Your life doesn't change. You don't stop doing what you're doing with the tenacity that you're doing it. That's the most powerful place for somebody to be in.
For a young entrepreneur who doesn't know, who maybe has the skill set, but then is lacking the ability to get inside the business, like how do I can charge for this kind of stuff? Like I'm already really good at it. How do I price this? Like I think it's worth more, but like people don't really want to pay, but I know it's worth it. How does somebody get through that wall?
Sure. It's energetics. This is one of the key concepts I teach on in our mastermind and with anybody I work on. It's all energetics. What do we see most people do? Oh God, I guess, my prices must be too expensive. I'm just charging too much. Or what are you doing that's causing people to not feel the value that you have for them? So your energetics are everything. When you get on the phone, like when I get on the phone with an entrepreneur and they say, man, I really want to work with you. And I say, cool, it's a 3-month contract. It's $8,000. And they go, oh, does that sound good? And they're like, I don't know. That's really expensive. And I say, yep. There's an energy there. So here's the thing. The reason that I do what I do, charge what I do, I stopped seeing money as money and I started seeing it as energy. I started seeing it as energetic contributions, right? We tell everybody, yo, I need you, like if you and me on this podcast, it's like, Ben, I need you bought in right now. Or we say that, yo, I need you bought into this. Well, how do we buy into something? With our energy. Where is all of our energy usually dictated? It's on money. It's the truth. Like anybody says. Money is energy. Money is life force energy. That is our agreed upon exchange of energy. So I even for our mastermind, I don't tell them they have like a monthly recurring payment. We call it an energetic contribution. And that might seem a little woo-woo, but being able to say, hey, I just need y'all to energetically put some of you into this container. Otherwise, you're not going to be receptive to what's coming out of it and actually changing. If I let you in for free, if I let you into this mastermind for $50 a month, are you actually going to care? No. So it stops being about how much money we're making. It stops being about how much money is going into my pocket. It starts being, what is the energetic, like what is that barrier of an energetic contribution that I need from another person for me to show up my best and for them to show up their best? I'll tell you what. If you and I started working together and I said it was an $8,000 commitment for those 3 months and you paid it, how receptive and willing are you to get as much out of that 3 months as possible?
Very.
Exactly. And that is why every single person that I work with is successful. Did that answer your question?
It definitely does. I think it is. You're right. It is a little woo woo. You're not wrong.
It's fine.
But it makes sense, right? It's an agreed upon. It's the one thing we can all understand. A dollar is a dollar, and I'm asking out of my own experience, right? And I've had clients where I'm like, okay, I'll give you, your first 3 weeks are free, and then after that, we're going to go to move forward. And my belief is that in fitness, it's very hard to get people to pay that aren't bought in, right? But the value's there. It's not the only thing I'm not doing. I'm not just writing somebody workouts. Like we're changing somebody's life.
Sure.
For the long term, what they're going to be doing when they're 60 years old is going to be influenced by what we're doing today, and we're going to change their bone structure, and we're going to change their mentality on what work really looks like, and being diligent and staying committed, and then showing up. And then even then, there are so many people that want to take that and take advantage of it. And it's like, well, it is this money. And if you don't charge less, then people aren't willing to pay more.
Well, so here we go back to human paradox, right? We have paradoxes everywhere in life is a paradox, right? If I say it's high, other people see it's low. If I see it's low, other people say it's high. You look at, and just to kind of go back to the original thing of like, who's the entrepreneur trying to get people to pay for this thing? It's really hard to ask people for money when you're first starting off, because you're like, dude, I'd be happy with anything. And I get that. But when we look at, I'm having a hard time charging for my service. Okay, what about your service needs to be fixed for you to have confidence in charging for it? That's the number one question to ask yourself. But the second is, you said most people don't want to buy in fitness. I mean, I disagree. I never had issues with that. I still don't have issues with that. I work with $5 million, $6 million companies in the fitness industry, and on their way to 10 million, and it comes down to the energetics around your brand, the brand identity, how much you're posting, and the value that you see. Because if I go into a conversation with somebody about what I do, and they go, man, $8,000 is really expensive for 3 months. And I'm able to sit here and ground myself and say, seriously? I thought you were on this call because you said you've been struggling to get your business past 20K for the last 5 years. Isn't that right? So yeah. Okay. So you're telling me that $8,000 in 12 weeks of your time is not worth it to you to not only break past that, but also reinforce yourself with the knowledge, the thoughts, and the belief systems so that you never have to come back to that plateau again for the rest of your life? See, because now it becomes a game of what's everything going to happen to you? Like, what's all the progress that you're going to make after we work together with all the knowledge that you've learned and how that compounds over time? People miss that part a lot when they're talking about their services. So let's just look, and I'm going to be really aggressive here. This is not how I would talk to a fitness client on the phone. But let's say that we have somebody who calls for fitness, and you're going, yeah, okay, it's for 6 months, it's $3,000, and they're like, Becky Sue is 280 pounds, 5'3", never stepped foot on a treadmill in her life, and she's going, well, that's way too expensive. There's no way I can afford that. And I sit there and go, Becky Sue, can I be real with you real quick? And she says, yeah. And I go, look, you're on the phone because you have a massive problem to solve, right? You're fat, right? You're fat. You're obese. You just said it yourself. You're obese, which means you're on your way out. We know obesity is one of the number one killers on the planet. Number one killers in America. Sorry. One of the number one killers in America. Let's talk about this. $3,000, 6 months of your time to start losing that weight, reverse all these health markers, instill the habits, the knowledge, and the wisdom for you to be able to tackle this for the rest of your life is not worth $3,000 to you. Here's what's going to happen. You're not going to do this. You're going to convince yourself out of it, because everybody does, right? You and I know that people will talk themselves out of right when you're about to do something to change your life. People talk themselves out of it. The second that I say, I can give you all these things, it's $8,000. There's my excuse to not move forward and change my life. Everybody does this. Everybody does this. So when I can sit there and say, here's what's going to happen. You're going to convince yourself that this program's not for you. You're going to convince yourself you're the one person who's going to do my program. It's not going to work. And then you're going to waste your money. You know what's really going to happen? We're going to get off the phone. You're going to forget all about it. You're not going to change any habits. You're going to spend well over $3,000 on new pairs of pants every couple of months because you keep gaining weight. Then you're going to go diabetic. You're going to get prescribed insulin. Your insurance isn't going to cover all of it. Now you're going to take these pills and this insulin for the rest of your life. And then you're going to come back and have to pay me this money. Most people don't want to challenge other people like that. But I do. But that challenge has to come from a heartfelt place. If I'm challenging somebody just to get their money, it's not going to work. If I'm challenging somebody because I genuinely know I can help their situation and change their life, and I know that they're going to self-sabotage and not move forward, it's a lot easier for me to lean into that challenge with love.
That's for sure. I mean, just selling a product to sell a product sucks when you don't believe in the product or when there is no true benefit to the product. But if you truly believe in what you are selling, then it's not really a sell. It's again, I think to lean into what you said earlier, it's an exchange of energy, right? And
100%.
it's a lot better for both the entrepreneur, the person, the salesman, if you will, and then the client as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
I like it. I think it's good, and not asking, I guess, for a budget, but understanding, like setting a price and knowing what that price is. How does somebody go about creating us a price for something?
Mm-hmm. The question to ask myself, because here's the thing, anybody can afford anything. Anybody can afford anything. If I said, Ben, you need to work with me for the next 3 months, it's $8,000. And you go, oh, dude, I don't know if I can swing that. If I said, Ben, I have a brand new Lamborghini outside. I just don't want it anymore. I'll sell it to you for $8,000, but I need you to buy it today. You would do everything in your power to get that. You would get that Lamborghini. You would, right? You would call friends. You would call, like, here's what I'm doing. I got to get this Lamborghini. You would go get a credit card. You go take a loan, whatever, because you're like, whoa, $8,000 for a Lamborghini? That's fucking insane. Am I wrong?
Maybe not the best example, but yes, I don't give a fuck about Lamborghini.
Okay,
but I get the concept. Yeah.
You get the concept, right? A private jet, $8,000. You have your own private jet, whatever it is that you whatever your own private island in Nicaragua, like whatever you want to say, right? For $8,000, you would find it because you're like, holy crap, that value is insane. When the value is yourself, it's harder to feel that. So my thing, I know people can afford anything I'm offering. I know they can. So my question no longer is my price affordable for people? In a way. My question to myself is, what's the energetic contribution? What's the payment I need to receive so that I can feel energized to show up and serve this person to the best of my ability? Because if I'm underselling my services, I'm not gonna energetically be into it. You're gonna have that voice in my head. They go to ask you a question. You're like, oh, they're only paying me $200 a month. Like, why the fuck are they asking me so many questions? I don't get paid enough for this. And that's transferred. When my clients message me, dude, I'm like, fuck it. Like, you want to hop on another call? Hop on a FaceTime real quick? Like, let's do it. What are you going to? Let's talk about it. My clients and I, we're sending Voxer, which is like an audio app. It's like a walkie-talkie app. I'm sending Voxers to them 24/7. I genuinely love working with my people. I love when they ask me questions. I love when they need to hop on a call with me to go over a business thing because our energetic exchange, we're both so bought in to their success, and that's why they're successful. I mean, it's truly mind-blowing how fast you can see somebody be successful when they're energetically bought in. Dude, I had a guy start with me in December. And he said, he was like, dude, I want to start my own business. Like, I want to be off on my own, completely on my own. And he's like, I want to be able to do 20K months by June. I want to do 20K months by June. I said, cool, man. Let's fucking do it. Now, this guy is obviously an outlier. He is like a savage. In January already, he's hit 21K. That's crazy.
That's insane.
would he have done? But he bought in. He didn't have the money. And he was like, all right, I got to do this. And because he still did that, it triggered something in him. I've paid this money. I've energetically bought in. I got to use this resource. I got to take action. I got to provide. I got to make this money back. I got to hit this goal. What did he do, dude? 6-month goal, 1 month. Crazy. It's possible for everybody. At least in my world.
I got to take a leak. Do you mind if I'll be right back?
Sure.
Cool. Appreciate that.
Yeah, of course, man. Take it away.
The energy you have, the charisma and the energy and the I mean, it sounds like it. Selfishly, this feels like a class, right? It's like I'm gonna take as much from this as I possibly can, and I want other people to as well.
Yeah, please do, brother.
But it's contagious, right? And it sounds like you've lived a hell of a life. To be successful so early on is inspiring for other people who don't believe in themselves and think that it's real and you can really make it happen.
Appreciate that.
And they're just committing to a belief, and even if, and not being so closed off to something that somebody may think is so woo woo, but it's the guy who Nick is, the guy who's behind the face, is someone who's able to relay information very, very digestibly, right? It's something that we can grab onto and understand and relate with. And I think what people don't see is that even this and the way that you speak has taken work to get to this point. Even if we don't always realize that it's work in the moment as the person who's communicating, it's an understanding from somebody on the outside perspective. It's like an appreciation, like you've stood up and you've talked to people and you've kind of come up with your own solutions and your way to describe things that made sense both to you so that you could internalize and appreciate and then communicate to somebody that they can also understand. And that, I think, is extremely difficult because you're not playing with somebody's, hey, I need you to take your left arm and rotate it externally or internally. I need you to think about these things this way, and then controlling. And I think control is maybe not the best word. It also has a negative connotation, I feel like. But trying to change somebody's mind, the thing that you can see, right? And it's complex. It's difficult, and it's taking you time to get to this point, but you've diligently worked towards getting here. And I think it's working with as many people as you have that's given you that opportunity, and it's given you the skill. And you are saying you find the skill and get good at it. I think you found at least one that I can see, right? One that I can appreciate in conversation. It can captivate somebody. But there's also, I know that there's more skills or I believe that there's more skills. Maybe is this your skill that you've cultivated?
So I actually, without being too, what's the word I'm looking for? Just not trying to come at this from any sort of cocky standpoint whatsoever, but I
Be
feel as
confident
if
you are.
I feel as if what you just said, I actually view it as a gift. I've obviously fine-tuned this gift over time, but I think that I have been gifted with a very high level of perspective and the way to articulate that perspective to people. It just really comes naturally. It always has. Yeah, I've always been a challenger. I've always been the one to say, well, why are you doing it that way? Why can't you just do it this way? Well, what if you just looked at it that way? Wouldn't that make more sense for you? And I think a lot of times people can, you're a wizard, you changed my life. I'm like, I didn't. All I did was ask you a question and then you changed the rest of it. Like, it's really that simple. But again, people are so used to putting their power outside of them. It's like, oh my God, I got a result, must be this person's doing. And it's again, one of those things you say that and everyone goes, huh, I do always say that about somebody else, right? Oh, I listened to this speech. This speech changed my life. No, it didn't. The speech allowed you to ask yourself a different question and you got a new answer, and that's what changed your life. So the skill that you're referring to, I really appreciate that because it's something that I've worked very hard to fine tune, but I genuinely believe that it's just a gift because I've been through a lot of shit in my life. I mean, a lot, most things that I don't think human beings should have to go through. And I think that could have created two completely different realities for my life. And I'm very blessed and guided by whatever you want to say is up there or out there to be where I am and being able to speak and help people the way that I'm helping.
I think that, again, the similarities are insane. And I think that the whoever you call up there, the guy guiding all this or late or whatever, has continuously put me in front of people that are really interesting and just good people. Like and obviously there's people who haven't been that person or that I haven't been able to rely on. Not to say I'm relying on you, but just that I can learn from, right? Mm-hmm. That they're through and through, like they're pushing their own boundary to grow for themselves, and then by proxy can teach others, or others can see and notice and say, oh shit, like that's how they're doing that. Got it. Okay. That's cool. Right. I think that a lot of, I've been in this position because I was like, oh man, maybe if I go down this route, like I see some sort of success, like that's going to be a good route to go and I can learn from. And then you realize, oh shit, this isn't, I mean, you grab some nuggets, but then you realize, oh shit, this isn't what it was, because ultimately they're not you, right? Mm-hmm. They are not me. And the person that ultimately I need to rely on is this guy, because if I have a vision for something, yes, I need to learn skills and I need to know some business law and I need to know XYZ, how to balance a sheet and all these things that can be learned, but I can't look for somebody else to uphold this standard of a product because they're not me. Mm. And you did it. You got out of that matrix and gave yourself enough trust and knew that you were worthy of it and found the thing and said, all right, let's do it. Let's go for it. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's really cool to hear and see. Because just earlier before this, I went to this class. He was teaching some spinal engineering theory, which all movement originates from the spine is the theory. And it's not the most like far-fetched idea. It makes sense, but it was a different way to teach rotational movements. Do you have a time limit?
No.
No? Okay. I just saw you look down. Just wondering.
I got a pretty ghetto setup for my microphone. That's why I was. You good?
Cool. Just making sure it's still alive. So you going over this rotational theory and seeing all these people around there, and I've had this idea for years now where I would go to schools and teach the squat, the bench, and the deadlift. I think that that powerlifting, I'm very good at. We have 4 fundamental movements in life. We can, and how can we teach, especially kids who are impressionable, who in the long run, if they are successful or they feel comfortable doing these movements, then they're maybe not competing in the powerlifting world, but they are engaging in movement, right? And that's just good for their souls, their bodies, their mental health. It's all the way around good and what we need more of in our severely obese society. And it's like, this is something I know very well. I know how to communicate it very well. And I'm also, I have this niche. I want to go to schools. I want to teach this niche. And then one of the coaches there I used to train with, he was like, hey man, like, we would love you to come and like coach our coaches on how to coach the 3 movements. It's like, for sure, like without a doubt. And then now I'm here thinking, do I charge for this or do I not charge for this? How do I charge for it? What makes sense? Like, should it be for free, the first one, and then like we continue to like gain traction? I don't know what that looks like. And I think for someone who's so new to this space, I know my niche, right? And now I'm like, okay, now it's an energetic exchange, right? It's a good way to put value to it. Mm-hmm. So it's cool, but it's still a learning process and being confident with whatever I decide.
I mean, that's the golden ticket. That's it. Am I aligned with what I'm asking for? And if the answer is yes, then we don't care if somebody says yes or no to it. That's how you know you're in alignment.
And then just getting on the phone and just calling people and say, "Hey, this is sir, this is the service I'm offering. Is this something that that we
people can vastly overcomplicate how to start a business? Hey, I got this thing that I'm doing. Do you want to try it? No? Cool. Next phone number. Hey, I got this thing I'm doing. Do you want to try it? No? Okay, cool. Because no triggers us. Oh, somebody said no. What do you mean you don't want to try this business that I spent 4 hours putting together and now I'm offering? Well, entrepreneurship must not be for me. You look at the presidential candidate or the presidential campaigns back in, freaking 1940, 1950, 1960. It's like the president who won was the president who shook the most hands. That concept is still extremely relevant here. Now, now we got social media and we got all the, the presidential campaigns are just a fucking joke nowadays. But back then, look at the principle. Hey, I got to go to the most amount of meetings in front of the most amount of people, shake the most amount of hands, make the most amount of connections, and I will win. That core principle never changes. People get too caught up in the end result of, well, I'm going to do this so that I can achieve this. And then they never achieve it because they go, I'm never going to get there. I'm never going to get there. Well, what if we, and this is kind of the way I structure it for people. So for our solar company, I tell people, look, it can be really overwhelming when you're getting into a brand new company, a brand new industry, and you've never sold solar before, and you see how much money's in it, but you're like, I don't know if I can do this. And then you go knock your first door and they tell you to fuck off and slam the door in your face, right? You're like, fuck this. I'm not doing this anymore. This sucks, right? Or you knock 5 doors in a row. They're all no's and you give up. But if we switch that and you said, here's my game plan. Over the next 90 days, I'm going to knock 1,000 doors. That's my goal. That's my process, no matter what. 90 days, 1,000 doors. After 90 days, then I'll go assess what's going on. Because here's what will happen. 5 people close the door in your face. You're like, cool, time for number 6, right? Oh, 6 person said yes. Awesome. Time for number 7, because you haven't lost sight of the process. And most people lose sight of the process. You become a different person when your business is doing well, and you become a different person when your business is doing bad. And so you never make progress forward.
I door knocked for a while.
Really?
And dude, it's tough and shitty at times, and it's also so nice, but it really is just like, hey, I know what I'm going to say. When I got to that door, I knew exactly what I was going to say. If they had X, what do they call them?
I don't know.
And they have a specific, not a rebuttal, but a whatever they had said.
An objection?
An objection, thank you. Any objection they had, I was like, well, I know what I'm gonna like. I know the end, like, and I was doing for the money, and also I felt I was selling a good product because it was through insurance, and so they never had to pay $1. It's like all I need to do is get on your roof, we can file a claim, and you never have to do anything. You can, and we'll give you a full in Texas. You can't anymore. Give a full discount for their deductible, and then you would make at the company I was with, we make anywhere from like 40 to 50% profit margin, or not commission. So it was cake. It was like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to sell it. We're going to sell it every single time. And yeah, there were a lot of no's. And initially it was like, damn, this kind of sucks. But the more that you do it, the easier it gets. And if that is a skill and a process that's already been trained, then it's no different here. It's just picking up the phone rather than knocking on a door.
Yeah. Picking up the phone, sending DMs, replying to comments, going to your local gym, looking at hashtags, starting conversations with people. It's not hard. But you message somebody about a service and they leave you on red, and all of a sudden you get this anxious heart palpitation of, oh my God, I look so stupid. I can't believe I did that. They're going to think I'm desperate. You're marketing yourself. What do you mean? Yeah, there was like weird egotistical attachment to, if I have to promote my services, then my services aren't good. Really? McDonald's is the number one restaurant on the globe. And they promote every single day. And you think that you shouldn't have to promote your services, otherwise you're not good. And that's a really common one in the fitness community. It is. I see a lot of coaches, if you're actually a really good coach, you don't need to market yourself. Your clients just find you. And we see this a lot with spirituality coaches as well. It's like gaslighting your audience. They're like, well, my ideal clients always find me and they're ready to pay because they're this type of person. So you start putting these subconscious demands into your audience that are like, oh, my ideal client is somebody who actually cares about themselves, who actually wants to build a future for themselves. And they're ready to get on the phone with me right now and pay. And so now these people are looking at these prerequisites and going, well, like I do care about myself. I do want my future. And okay, so I guess I'll hop on the phone. And then they're on the phone and they're going, well, I thought you said that you were this type of person. I thought you were doing that. Like, you're my ideal client. So why are you saying no on the price? And then you're just gaslighting these people to buy from you. And then those people never become successful. And then what happened? You get a bad reputation. People start talking about being in your coaching and it didn't work, or whatever. And that's going to happen no matter what service you're in. There's people who will tell you I changed their lives. There's people who will tell you I ruined their lives. Right? Same fact, two different realities. People get too hung up on that, and it stops them from growing.
I mean, again, if the shoe fits, and I think I worry, like, not all my clients are going to be that successful. So, like, oh man, like that reputation, I know that reputation means a lot. It carries a lot of weight. And so, but just trusting that, hey man, hey Ben, we got this. We got skills. You've messed up before, but you've learned from those fuck ups, right? Unfortunately, those clients, not every single client's going to have success, but every single one of those clients is going to ultimately make me a better coach, which is unfortunate in some ways. It also makes them a better person if they're able to look at it that way, right? If they're able to say, oh shit, well, I learned that maybe that this coach isn't for me and online coaching isn't for me, or whatever their takeaway is. Both individuals learn just as much as both individuals learn from a quote unquote successful coaching experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. 100%.
I guess these are realizations that I'm making out loud.
That's fine.
Things that
let it happen.
These are things that you have that I guess have already experienced and learned, and it's again. How old are you?
29.
Okay, so you're not. I mean, yeah, we're at the same age, and you've seen insane. I mean, from what I would say, a lot of success at a very early age, and there was always these people around me that were saying, "Hey, man, you're too young for." You're too young for that. You're still so young. You don't understand yet. You got to wait a long time to be successful. It's like, for fucking what? Why? Why do you have to be so young? It's ridiculous.
Here's a question I always ask myself when I ask anybody else who says, oh, I need to ask this person what they think or this, or like I need to talk to my parents. Okay, would you trade your life or your bank account with that person? No? Okay, then stop worrying what they say. That's the scope I've always lived my life through. Would I trade my life for yours, or would I trade my bank account for yours? And if not, I'm going to give very little merit to what you have advice-wise about the direction of my business, my wealth, and my investments. The poorest people have the loudest advice. Oh, you made money. Oh, you should, you put it in the S&P 500. Make sure you buy, put it in the stock market so that you can really, it's like, no, shut up. It's always there. So I always just ground myself.
Instead, learn a skill.
Yeah. Alex Shamosi has this funny thing where he says, I invest in the S&Me 500 instead of the S&P 500. Basically, all the money when you're first starting, you put it back into yourself, buy mentors, buy masterminds, buy all of these things, develop your capacity. This is something that I really did not understand the concept of. Like the first 5 years as an entrepreneur, I just hoard my money. I would just hoard it. And I always see people like, no, invest in yourself so that you develop like a more well-rounded approach, because when you become more valuable, you can charge more money. And I was like, how can I charge more money as a fitness coach? Right? Like that, it doesn't apply to me. I'm a personal trainer. I'm a gym owner. So how could me go learning a new skill make me more money? So I wasn't asking myself the right question, right? What skill could I go learn that would allow me to vertically integrate my services, have a higher lifetime value of customer, make more money, serve them better, et cetera? And a great example of this is, let's say you have a real estate company that buys and flips homes, right? So let's just say we buy and flip houses. And then we go, man, how can we increase our profit margins, or how can we improve ourselves? It's like, well, why don't we start a solar company? Cool. Now every house that we flip, we put solar on it. I make commission from the solar that I install from my own company on my own property to save my property electric. And now I'll take the commission I make from the solar and I'll go use it to buy the next property. And then I can just rinse and repeat that process all day long. Now, what if things need improvements? Well, what if I start a roofing company and now I put all the new roofings on all my new homes before the solar? So now, because I have this roofing company, I'm getting roofing materials at wholesale pricing, and I can sell it to my home flipping company at wholesale pricing. So I'm breaking even over here, but I'm saving money over here. And now I'm putting solar on it. So now this whole thing I spend less and I still continue to make more. But those are the types of ways of thinking I did not understand until very later on. Cost me a lot of money.
What classes? Did you have mentors, or did you take classes?
I've mentored under a lot of people. I'll book a call with somebody just standing. I'm like, can I get an hour of your time? How much is it? Most of these people have websites where you can book an hour of their time. I've booked many times. I've seen and spoken with John C. Maxwell a ton. I've booked time with Grant Cardone. I've worked with a lot of people that I say, man, they're killing it with either marketing or the way that their brain thinks. And even if they're not in my same industry, and I did mentor under some amazing fitness coaches in the day to like reinforce my skill set. But it was looking at these people and saying, what about them do I admire? And what would I like to pick their brain about? And if it was everything, I was like, oh, what's the cost? What's the price? I think that people have a hard time investing in that when they don't trust themselves with the information that they're going to learn. I think that's the caveat. Because for Grant Cardone, it's $40,000 for an hour of his time. So somebody can go, that's so stupid. How dare he charge that much, blah, 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 blah. Or you can say, okay, if I'm putting $40,000 in, I know without a shadow of a doubt that if I bring the right questions to this meeting for $40,000, that I will make $400,000 from that investment. But if you don't feel that way about yourself, it doesn't matter what mastermind you enter. It doesn't matter what coach you have. It doesn't matter who you hop on a phone call with, because you haven't reinforced your inner belief in yourself and the trust in yourself to take that investment that you make and go make more money from it. So you'll always convince yourself out of making an investment in yourself.
Earlier you said that there were more character traits that people have coming to you that make them not successful than people that make them successful, right? So people who are successful have these certain character traits or skills. What are some of those specific character traits and skills that successful people have?
The ability to endure is number one. The ability to endure, the willingness to actively and consistently put yourself in discomfort every day. And I know that sounds a little bit away from business, and some people may argue against this, but we all have that voice in the back of our head. We all have that voice that tells you, stay in bed, don't get up, it's too cold, you're not worthy, you can't do this, they're not going to buy from you, you're too stupid, you're not pretty, all of these things. So that's the same voice. The second you feel uncomfortable and something disrupts your comfort level in business, that you retreat. It convinces you to give up. So for me, I have to, and I see the similarity with everybody else I'm with that's successful. I have to meet that voice head on first thing to start my day, and I have to show it and remind myself and it that I'm in charge. For me, that looks like running now. It changes. It used to be holding air squats first thing in the morning. Now it's running. I fucking hate running. But I go out first thing in the morning. It's 35 degrees outside in Eugene, Oregon, and I go for this run. And I hear the voice in my head you got to turn back. You're too tired. You didn't stretch. It's too cold. And I'm like, damn, now I got to run twice as far. Because when that voice tells me to turn away, I'm going twice as far now. So that voice knows the second you bitch, I do twice as much. And so I overcome that, and I actively seek out discomfort, so that when discomfort pops up in a business situation, it doesn't derail me. Okay. The next one is understanding that motivation does not equate to transformation. I'm going to say that again. Motivation does not equal transformation. People think that the second they're motivated, like, I'm going to start this business, I feel amazing, I just listened to this speech, or I just listened to a podcast, I'm changed. No, you're not. Because in a week, you're back to it, and now the self-pity starts again. So we realize, or the people who are successful realize, that motivation is a great wave to ride to get you a little bit higher, but it still needs to be reinforced by your obsession, by your discipline, and what your purpose is. Otherwise, you're just going to go up, and you're going to fall right back down. You're going to go up, and you're going to fall right back down, and then you're never going to get anywhere. Right? The next one is not allowing outside people's opinions to dictate how you are. Not being afraid of money. And afraid is, I'm afraid to have it, or I'm afraid to lose it. Afraid, any context around money, you're going to get stomped out because you won't think clearly. Your life force energy is clamped up. You're not able to be grounded, and then obviously the piggybacking off of that is another trait, is being able to stay grounded with your decisions, what's happening outside of you, what your process is, and really accepting the fact that you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And some people literally would rather see you die than succeed. I think that's one of the number one things, is having that thick skin. Because if you really want to change the world, if you really want to help people on a really hard level, you got to understand that your messaging is going to be triggering, and people either get triggered in offense or evolution, and 90% of people are going to take offense. If you don't have the thick skin, if you don't believe in yourself, if you're not actively seeking discomfort, the second you get some Instagram comments that say you're a piece of shit, you're going to give up. So those are some of the traits that I think people need.
Those are good ones. Those are good, really good ones. I like the last one the most, having thick skin.
Yep.
Having thick skin seems to be
missing everywhere.
When other people are put in discomfort, then their immediate reaction is to lash out, right? They want to they want to fight. They want to fight that discomfort, so then they're more likely to say some nasty shit. And rather than look a little bit inside, like, oh shit, that actually was maybe right, or real, or whatever that may be. But
I think it's like, am I willing to assess a situation, speak my belief, fully trusting that belief, and am I able and willing to have opposing evidence presented to me that then makes me, or like allows me to change my mind, and me be okay with that? Because people would rather be right than get the truth. people would rather prove you wrong when you're proving them wrong instead of actually looking for the truth. So I think that being able to say, hey, this is my belief, this is my stance, this is what I fight for. And if somebody was like, hey, here is irrevocable proof that what you're saying is actually wrong, am I able to take that and say, wow, you know what? Hey guys, new information has been presented to me and I've actually changed my stance a little bit. I actually feel as if it's more this way. That's hard to do.
Surrounding yourself with people that are able to do that and realizing that the people that you're around aren't that whenever they are confronted is, I think, a good sign that you got to either step away or find the next place or find the next thing, right?
Sure. You're always going to outgrow people. That's life. Doesn't necessarily mean that anybody in your life is doing something wrong. If I look around my old group of friends, love them all to death. Every time I go home, we all hang out, we have a good time. But is that a group of friends that are on the same path as me? No. Does that mean that they're doing anything wrong? No. Does it mean that I think I'm better than them? No. It just means there's two completely different paths, and I need to be around a certain environment that supports the current path that I'm on. Just because something needs to change or needs to be improved doesn't necessarily mean that anything about it is wrong.
There is no right or wrong. It just is. You can accept it and then either move on or live in it.
Sure. Also a great perspective.
I appreciate your time, man. I wish I don't know if you have any. I don't really have any questions for you, but I mean,
cool, man. We're almost 2 hours in. I think that's a good amount of time.
That's good. Yeah, I would say so. I mean, anything, and we kind of know what you do, but you want to plug anything before we sign off?
If anybody wants to, if anybody resonates with anything that I'm saying and, is wanting to build that life for themselves or have that support for self-mastery, they can sign up for the Impact Legacy Mastermind, or they can fill out an application and we'll hop on a phone and see if they're actually a good fit, because we don't just let anybody with money in. But that's pretty much my only offer. Outside of that, people can find me on my Instagram, and if they want to work with me, they can message me.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to turn off the call and I'm going to chat with you real quick right after.
Cool.